Hello, my friends. God bless you. Welcome back to Traveler of the Wood. I have an interesting subject today, and you know I have an interesting subject if I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Now, that's a joke, by the way. But as it gets warmer outside, I tend to wear Hawaiian shirts because I like the colors and I think they're beautiful. But the Hawaiian shirt does have a little bit to do with what I want to talk about today, and that is fifth generation warfare. Something I've realized while trying to make these videos to start explaining certain elements of reality, the hardest part is finding a starting point. Because everything is fractally connected, and if you think you found a starting point, well, there's something before that that you need to talk about, and then there's something before that one, and it goes back all the way through history. So that's kind of a unique problem about talking about this kind of stuff. But I think having a dedicated video talking about fifth generation warfare is important. And I'm going to try to make this video fairly brief because we could talk about fifth generation warfare all day. There's a lot of very unique elements to what fifth generation war is. But I don't want to do that. I just want to get some basic foundational knowledge of this war, because this is a war that we're actively in right now. We are in the middle of a full-fledged fifth generation war assault. There are a lot of elements that have to come together for people to effectively be combatants in the fifth generation war. And that's kind of more what I want to talk about. But first, let's just talk about fifth generation war. All that really means is that it's a war that takes place predominantly in the digital space. There are kinetic fronts to this type of warfare, and there are physical altercations, but it's predominantly in the digital space. Some people argue that you can't call it a war because it's taking place on the digital space. But when you really think about it, the digital space is where everything is happening nowadays. It's where most people spend their time. The amount of time that the average person spends on the internet is actually quite crazy. And we are fully immersed in the digital realm, almost to the point that we have separate digital avatars in this realm. And that avatar is based on our mind, on our senses, on our psychology. And it's very, very deep. It's pretty troubling, actually, because we are way more susceptible to propaganda than we'd like to believe. I'd actually say that no one is immune to propaganda. Throughout this video, I'm going to display some memes to illustrate my point, if I can. So please bear with the memes on that, but who doesn't like a meme, right? But the meme is actually the next thing we need to talk about in the fifth generation war. So Terence McKenna used this term. He was talking about memes, like memes as we know them, long before memes were an actual thing. He was talking about this in the 90s. And a meme is the smallest unit of an idea. And I kind of like to call them idea seeds. But these idea seeds are very easily planted and very easily spread. So if an idea seed, a meme like this, takes off, it can, we have these words like viral. It can go viral very quick, but it can spread, The interesting thing about that is that it is a type of propaganda. But unlike propaganda in the past, it's the people that are the general epicenters of meme production. So, sure, and that's not to say there isn't government involved. There's definitely government agencies involved in making memes and sharing memes and things like that. But it's mostly people that are making memes. And I remember reading, I don't remember where I read this, but it was just fascinating to hear. A couple years ago, the government was spending a large amount of money trying to understand how to reach people via memes for propaganda purposes. And a lot of their data was inconclusive with people younger than Gen X. And the reason it was inconclusive is because people's senses of humor have gotten so niche and obscure that they can't really pinpoint how they can communicate certain ideas via memes, because everybody reacts to memes differently, and some people's humor are so absurdist, myself included. I tend to love absurdist memes. Here's one right now. I tend to like the absurdist style memes because they fit well in the absurdity of modernity. And when I look at them, I can laugh, because why wouldn't this exist? It's funny to me that, we have these kind of memes. I've got a whole separate folder on my computer called Level 5 Memes, because I like to collect some of these that I find funny. But that's beside the point. They are propaganda, and government agencies try to use memes to communicate certain ideas with we the people. But they're not very good at it, because the people that are in charge of a lot of these departments are boomers that don't understand how to communicate these ideas. Now, since then, they've become very hip to this, and these departments that work in government now are young people. They even have some, Gen Zers in there at this point that are trying to that are being paid by the government to learn how to manipulate the U.S. population. And shame on you if you have that job. But it's a thing. That's a thing that's happening right now. So that's a very interesting element of all this. Bringing it back to the point, memes are propaganda. And we're all susceptible to propaganda. And this is both good and bad. It's bad when we are controlled by these things, and when these things start, memes actually do have the ability to start kinetic physical conflicts, and that's a very big problem. And there's an element of misinformation. I mean, that's what propaganda is, essentially. It's not misinformation necessarily, but it's slanted information. It's meant to stimulate a certain thing. But in a warfare that is on the digital front, you have to be able to operate that way. You have to be able to fight memes, with better memes, I should say. It's such a weird thing. Vervaeke has this term psychotechnology. I don't know if he would agree that this is a psychotechnology, but I think a meme is a psychotechnology. And just like firearms technology, bigger, better guns mean you can do different things, So that's kind of how memes operate here. The other thing that memes are, and I know you've heard me a lot on this channel talk about magic, and please trust me that I'm getting to defining all of this stuff. It's just going to take some time. Memes are a type of linguistic spellcasting, but they're not just a linguistic spellcasting, because they're an artistic spellcasting also. Spellcasting is when you affect reality with your will. When your will affects reality. This is the alchemical definition of magic. But this is what a meme has the ability to do. Linguistic spellcasting is simply writing a short idea. Short memes can be linguistic spellcasting if they have this kind of desired effect on actually affecting reality. But this mixture of text and image, like in some memes, it's very sophisticated. It's a very sophisticated technology, and it preys on a very specific part of our brain that speaks to us through humor. Humor is such a powerful tool, and a lot of people tend to look over or gloss over that fact. When people are sad and down and feeling depressed about how everything's going in the realm, they're forgetting that humor exists. Humor is medicine. Humor can help you. Humor can also misguide you, but that's a different subject. But in general, I would say most people would agree that humor is good. When you're fighting a meme war, you are trying to out-humor the other opponent. And that's what makes this such a unique time in history, because this is ultimately the kind of war that's being fought, an ideological war in the digital space over whose ideas are funnier or whose pointing out of facts are funnier. That's another interesting thing about it too, is that, the goal is to have people understand your opinion, thus changing reality with your will. So very, very detailed spell casting going on with very simple, rudimentary tools. It's such an interesting time to be alive. I just can't reiterate that enough. Okay, so I talked about that. I've got a list down here, by the way, which is why I keep looking down of all the stuff I'm wanting to talk about. Let's talk about fighting in the meme war, because I came up with this term actually earlier today. I'm not going to say I'm the first person to come up with it, and this is aesthetic activism. Now, aesthetics are a subgenre of memes. Aesthetics are typically only visual. There's no words. There's nothing necessarily pushing you to an idea. It's just, look, this is the version of come and see. Come and see this, Aesthetics, aesthetic memes, I guess I should say, are sometimes even more powerful than memes with words. Why is that? That's because we seek out the good, the true, and the beautiful. And if something resonates to us as good, true, and beautiful, that's what really speaks to our soul, speaks to our mind, captivates us. So the aesthetic war is almost a sub-war going on in the major war, the major meme war. But I'd like to tell you a story real quick about aesthetics and how they can be used to change things. I have a friend who has a teenage daughter. And I was talking with him about this back in the day, and he shared with me this story. His daughter is in a Discord group for these girls that all play, some game, whatever. It's a lot of girls. They're always talking about stuff and typical, Gen Z type of subject matter being thrown around in there, Taylor Swift or Roblox or whatever kind of things they've got going on. Someone in the group started a conversation talking about wanting to learn how to cook. And one of the girls in this group was armed with some aesthetics, some cooking aesthetics. So this girl in the group starts posting some pictures that she's collected that come out of the cottagecore aesthetic. The cottagecore aesthetic happens to be one of my favorites, and it's for a couple of reasons, but the main one being that cottagecore is a romanticization of tradition. And to me, this is a very good thing, and this is something that people should be interested in. But so this girl starts posting memes out of the cottagecore aesthetic. I say memes, I mean aesthetics. Cooking aesthetics, really. They're just baking things, all real soft color palettes, very cottagecore-y. And some of the pictures featured women in it, that were cooking with holding a child or something like that. And just seeing these aesthetics in the group, all of a sudden, all the girls start having conversations about how this is the dream life, how they would love to be able to just be at home and have kids. They don't want to have jobs. They want to be a homemaker, basically. If you know anything about having Gen Z children at home, I can speak a little bit on this. Most teenage girls are not talking about that at all and are not interested in any way in motherhood or all of this stuff. Now, will their opinions change throughout time? Probably. But getting back to this Discord server, all of a sudden all these girls start showing interest in baking. And a lot of these girls, including my friend's daughter, is asking him about wanting to learn how to bake and everything. So he starts looking up some recipes and how to do this with his daughter. Fast forward a few months, and this Discord server has completely changed from being based around whatever game they were all playing to now it is like who can out cottagecore each other with their aesthetics that they're developing. All these girls in this group are all of a sudden talking about spirituality. They're talking about divine roles. They're talking about cooking, and they're talking about having children and all of this stuff. This was all started by literally an aesthetic of some muffins, you know? And that's just such a wild story to me. And it hasn't stopped either. I've talked to my friends since then, and I mean, the girls are just all in on this now. They're into cottagecore clothing, or what they consider cottagecore clothing, so they're dressing like modestly. And they're all growing their hair out real long. They're braiding their hair in, European styles. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And here I am sitting here going like, why can't I get my stepdaughter interested in cooking? Or why can't I get her interested in anything other than playing a video game? And it's like, man, you just have to be exposed to the right aesthetic at the right time to kind of change your opinion. Let's talk about a personal story. I was watching a YouTuber. I'm not going to say who because I'm embarrassed, honestly, that I was watching this internet personality at one point in my life. But he had a live chat going on during his show. It was a popular enough show that the live chat's just flying by, right? And I happened to catch a glimpse of someone's comment that just said, check out on BitChute. And I was like, I've messed around on BitChute before. I wonder what that's all about. So I kind of I had to scroll back up a little bit to see what it said. And I saw what it said, and I went and I looked it up on BitChute. And that moment, one of the top 10, we'll say, life-changing moments in my life. I was exposed to a documentary that really blew my mind. I'll just put it that way. If I had not just seen that comment go by, I would never have seen that documentary. So that guy that posted that comment was working in the meme war. He was an activist in the meme war. You could even say a soldier in the meme war. And just a simple suggestion was enough to show me something, you know. That's a pretty fantastic technology if that's all it takes. So in the digital space, there's a lot we can do with it. I know just recently, Jordan Peterson was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I forget if it was on Twitter or what. Somebody, I don't remember who. It was either Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan. Someone commented on one of these tweets with a meme. And the meme was very critical of said entity. Of course, the meme got taken down. It got disappeared pretty quick. But before it got taken down, it wasn't up there for a long time. It had more likes than the original tweet itself did. So planting these things is just such a rapid fire thing you can do. Now, can you get in trouble for doing this kind of activism? Of course you can. And in Europe especially, we are seeing people being jailed over having the wrong types of memes on their phone, which is deeply troubling. But that just shows you how scared the establishment is of this. They need full control of the meme war. And because we have the ability to produce memes, they don't have it. So they're afraid. They're afraid of this. You know, the whole thing is just one giant absurdity, in my opinion. But it's also very beautiful because this is the next generation of communication. And do I think it's particularly healthy that we have to do this? No. But this is the position that we're in modernity, where we have to fight this meme war. And I think if you learn a little bit about the meme war and how 5th generation warfare works, you can be a participant if you are sitting around feeling like if you're feeling helpless and like there's nothing you can do. There's always something you can do. And participating in the meme war is one of those things. So I guess that's all I have on the subject for now. Think about aesthetic activism, because with aesthetics, you don't have to say anything. All you have to do is show someone something. And that, if you show someone the good, the true, and the beautiful, they will be drawn to it like a magnet, because that's what everyone's craving. So I appreciate all of you very much. Please, if you like what I'm talking about, subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. I can see the analytics on this stuff, and about 80% of people that watch my content aren't subscribed, and they don't subscribe even though they continue to watch my content, which makes no sense to me. Why don't you just hit the subscribe button if you like it? But subscriptions would actually help me out a lot. I really appreciate it. I love hearing your feedback too. Comment and share the video. Post it somewhere. If you think it's useful for somebody, send it to them. I would really appreciate that. Also, some people have asked me how they can get in touch with me. I have a Telegram channel, which is Traveler of the Wood. I also have a Gab account, which I'm not on that much, but I jump on there occasionally. And I also, unfortunately, have an X account because I ended up having to make it to follow some people's stuff that I wanted to see. So I do have an X account also. All those links are on my page. Feel free to contact me if you've got questions or something. I love answering questions in these kind of videos like this. So thank you all so much for watching. I love you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless you.